On the morning of July 7th, 2026, in the heart of Manhattan, the famous Fizer Tower started to collapse. A renovation brought it down, not an earthquake, not an explosion, just scaffolding and steel plates and a crew doing what looked like ordinary work. A 37-story tower, 1 block from Grand Central, standing for 65 years without a single structural complaint, suddenly had steel columns bending, floors sagging 4 inches, windows cracking from the pressure. The city declared a collapse zone 6 blocks in every direction, shutting down Midtown during morning rush hour. Workers ran, buildings emptied. The streets around Grand Central went quiet in the middle of rush hour. And in the middle of it all, one question started to surface. A question that nobody has been able to answer yet. What if the steel holding up that building was never actually installed? In the next few minutes, you're going to understand 3 things. How a 65-year-old building that survived everything New York City could throw at it nearly came down during a routine renovation. Why the engineer who designed the repairs is now saying the most alarming thing anyone has said about this story, and what this means for thousands of people who live and work in skyscrapers across America right now. 235 East 42nd Street was built in 1960. Steel frame, glass facade, international style. The kind of building that defined Midtown Manhattan for a generation. For decades, it was the global headquarters of Pfizer, one of the most powerful pharmaceutical companies in the world. Pfizer eventually moved out, and the building sat. Then, in 2024, developer Nathan Berman of Metroloft Management looked at that tower and saw an opportunity. New York City was in the middle of a housing crisis, rents at record highs, vacancy near zero, and all over Midtown, aging office towers sitting half empty after the pandemic permanently changed how Americans work. Berman's plan: convert the Fizer Tower and the smaller adjacent building into 1,602 apartments, over 400 of them affordable, a rooftop pool, 100,000 square feet of amenities. Leasing was supposed to start the summer of 2026. It would be the largest office-to-residential conversion in the history of the United States. The financing reflected that ambition. In May 2025, Madison Realty Capital provided a construction loan of $720 million, the largest ever written for a residential conversion in New York City history. But office-to-residential conversions are unlike building from scratch. When you build new, every beam and column is calculated for exactly the loads it will carry. When you convert, you are asking a 60-year-old skeleton, bones designed for one purpose, to carry something entirely different. And at 235 East 42nd Street, they weren't just converting. They were adding floors, more weight, more pressure, more load pushing down on steel columns that had been standing since 1960. Think of it like this. Imagine a table that has held the same weight for 65 years without bending once. Now someone decides to stack 3 more tables on top of it. The legs might hold. It depends entirely on whether someone reinforced them first. If you're into stories like this, engineering failures, structural disasters, the decisions behind them, subscribe to GroundScope. I'll see you in the next one. The structural engineer hired for the project was Gase Consulting Engineers. Their job: figure out what those original 1960 columns needed to handle the new weight. The answer was steel reinforcing plates welded along the length of the columns between the 9th and 21st floors. 13 stories of added strength directly beneath the new load being piled on top. It was in the approved plans, submitted to the city, reviewed, stamped, authorized, everything in order, on paper. The reinforcement was designed. It was required. Then construction began. And on July 7th at 7:58 in the morning, a worker on the 21st floor noticed something that should never happen inside a steel-frame skyscraper. The columns were moving, not vibrating, not settling. Moving, bending under load like something that had simply run out of strength. The floors above, between the 21st and 26th stories, started to sag. 4 inches of movement in concrete that was never designed to move at all. Windows cracked, debris fell to the street. Someone called 911. Within minutes, the FDNY was on scene, then the Department of Buildings, then the mayor. A collapse zone was established. From 40th to 45th Streets, 1st to 3rd Avenues, 6 blocks of Midtown Manhattan shut down. Neighboring buildings evacuated. A private school cleared out. Hotels emptied. 1 block from Grand Central Terminal, which handles over 750,000 people on a normal weekday, the streets went silent. Fire Chief John Esposito said that because of the steel frame design, any collapse would be localized, not total. The whole tower wasn't going to fall, but a localized collapse in the middle of Manhattan is still a disaster. There is no such thing as a small one at that address. By Tuesday evening, emergency crews had installed temporary shoring on 17 floors. Steel columns, jacks, support posts, placed between the 18th and 23rd stories, taking the load off the damaged columns before they gave way entirely. By Wednesday morning, the DOB commissioner said the situation was stable. The streets started reopening. The collapse zone shrank. But the real story was just beginning, because now everyone had the same question. How do 2 load-bearing columns in a steel frame high-rise, in one of the most heavily regulated construction markets on Earth, simply buckle during a renovation? The developer offered an early theory. Nathan Berman told the Wall Street Journal he suspected the columns were not properly reinforced. Either the steel was never installed, or it was installed incorrectly. Then, on July 16th, the structural engineer spoke. Chris Behan, principal engineer at Gase Consulting Engineers, issued a statement, and what he said was extraordinary. The reinforcement from the 19th floor to the top of the 21st floor, which would have significantly increased the column's strength, was never installed. The structure was not reinforced as Gase's design required. The engineer who designed the fix is saying the fix was never built. The plans called for it, the city approved it, and according to Gase, nobody did it. Now, it's worth being precise here. Gase's statement is an allegation made by one party in a multi-sided dispute. The Department of Buildings has not issued a final determination. The investigation is open. Multiple parties are involved. The developer, the structural engineer, the general contractor, the steel fabricator, and the special inspection agency hired to certify the work. That last one matters. The company hired to inspect the structural steel at 235 East 42nd Street to verify the welds, the bolts, the reinforcements was a firm called Domani Inspection Services. Their job was to be the last set of eyes before construction moved forward. According to city records, Domani had certified the work as properly completed. After July 7th, reporters dug into Domani's history. Since 2012, the firm had been cited multiple times by the Department of Buildings at other projects for issues including unlicensed testing and failing to report structural problems. As recently as 2022, its director was cited for failing to adequately perform inspection duties at another Manhattan site. Domani responded by saying it performs tens of thousands of inspections and that it can only inspect work that was actually performed. But that answer points to something deeper. New York City, like most major American cities, relies heavily on private inspection agencies to fill the gaps that public regulators can't cover. The Department of Buildings doesn't have enough inspectors to watch every weld on every floor of every construction site in the 5 boroughs, so developers hire private firms to do it. And those private firms are paid by the very developers they are supposed to oversee. It is a system that works until it doesn't. And on the 21st floor of the former Pfizer headquarters, it didn't. The fallout moved fast. The Department of Investigation opened a parallel inquiry. The DOB ordered Metroloft to bring in Thornton Tomasetti, one of the most respected structural engineering firms in the country, for an independent forensic review. City inspectors fanned out across New York, visiting other Metroloft projects and sites associated with the steel subcontractors involved. Stop work orders issued at multiple locations across the city. Metroloft announced plans to rebuild the damaged section entirely, replace the facade, replace the floor plates, replace the steel reinforcements. Nathan Berman told Bloomberg the building would be reskinned, everything leveled, fixed in place, and brand new. The $720 million construction loan? Still accruing interest. Every day the project sits paralyzed. The financial clock keeps running. The leasing that was supposed to start this summer, indefinitely postponed. The 1,602 apartments New York City was counting on, still unbuilt. There is a bigger story underneath this one. Office to residential conversions have become one of the most politically popular ideas in American urban planning. New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Washington. The pitch is simple. Take the buildings nobody wants for offices, turn them into the apartments everyone needs. It sounds elegant. In many cases, it works. But a 2023 study by Moody's Analytics found that only 3% of office buildings in major American cities are truly suitable for residential conversion without significant engineering challenges. 3% of the inventory, a fraction. The Fizer Tower conversion required adding floors to buildings that were never designed for them. It required asking 60-year-old steel columns to carry loads far beyond their original purpose. It left essentially no margin for error. And somewhere in that process, according to the engineer who designed the repairs, the margin wasn't just thin, it was missing entirely. As of today, the investigation is ongoing. No final determination, no charges filed, no one found legally responsible. What we know, on July 7, 2026, 2 steel columns in one of Manhattan's most ambitious construction projects buckled under load. The city responded. The building was stabilized. Nobody was killed. What we don't know, exactly why those columns buckled, whether the reinforcing steel was never installed or installed incorrectly. Who, if anyone, will be held accountable? Whether the finished building will be safe for the families who were supposed to move in. Those answers are coming. The forensic review is underway. Investigators are inside that building right now. But the question that haunts this story isn't really about the Fizer Tower. It's about every other building in every other American city where someone looked at an aging office tower, saw a housing solution, and started adding floors. How many of them got the steel? If you're into stories like this, engineering disasters, structural failures, and the decisions that cause them, subscribe to GroundScope. New stories every week.